Hello everyone, I'm Drinóczi and I'm very happy to join the vlog series of Diritti Comparati. Thank you to Cristina and Giuseppe for the invitation. I'm here to introduce our new edited volume, Language for Legislation and Legislation Through Language, published by Routledge in 2025, which I co-edited with two colleagues, Xanthaki, a leading scholar in legislative drafting and legislative studies, and Julia Pennisi, a leading linguist specializing in legal discourse, translation, and terminology. And I came to the project from comparative constitutional law. So you see, even the editorial team reflects the book's basic idea. If we want better legislation, we need lawyers, linguists, and others to work together. So now, why this book and why now? Because laws do not work just because they are passed. A law that people cannot understand, interpret, or translate properly cannot be effective. Legislation is not only a legal act, it is also a communicative act. But for decades, drafting has been treated as a closed professional activity. At the same time, other fields, especially linguistics, translation studies, terminology research, and even AI-based methods, have developed tools that could dramatically improve how laws are written and understood. So the book emerges from a straightforward question. What happens when we stop treating legislative drafting as the exclusive territory of lawyers and instead bring disciplines together? The answer is a collective project. But before I tell you more about the content of this collective project, it's worth asking, whose perspectives does this book bring together? The volume includes 18 chapters by 28 authors working across Europe, Latin America, the Caucasus, and Western Asia, drawing on expertise in law, linguistics, translation, terminology, and natural language processing. Their contributions are based on case studies from Brazil, Turkey, Georgia, Switzerland, Kosovo, the European Union, and beyond. So we have here not only an international and interdisciplinary, but also a comparative and, in its sources and examples, multilingual conversation about how legislation is written, interpreted, translated, and applied, and how legislative practice can be strengthened methodologically and institutionally. So, what does this book contribute to this discussion? The book's contribution is threefold. It shows why language matters in legislation, offers tools, and demonstrates how those tools work in real drafting. That's why the book is divided into three parts, each approaching the relationship between law and language from different directions. The first section explores three thematic areas: social practice, translation and interpretation, and legal certainty. These chapters show how language shapes legal meaning in practice, from gender-inclusive drafting in Brazil to multilingual lawmaking in the EU and Switzerland, to the role of legal language in building national identity in Georgia and Turkey, and to questions of rule of law compliance in Kosovo. Here, the focus is on what is happening when law and language interact in real context. And the message is clear. Linguistic choices affect legal effectiveness, social inclusion, and democratic legitimacy. When language works, law works. When it doesn't, law loses clarity, reach, and trust. Now, the second part moves from themes to methods. It looks at the tools we can use to study and improve legislative language, from contrastive terminology and comparative law to multilingual drafting techniques, natural language processing, and multimodality. The chapters show that these tools are not optional add-ons, but conditions for legislative clarity and accessibility. When the right tools are built into drafting, the law becomes easier to read, apply, and implement. When they are missing, legal text may remain valid on paper, but less accessible in practice. The final part puts themes and tools together. It shows what it means to apply linguistic insights to drafting in practice through translation-based quality checks, tense analysis, soft law drafting criteria, and easification techniques that reshape entire regulations. It moves beyond explaining why language matters and instead demonstrates how it can produce clearer, more targeted, and more effective legislation. What sets this book apart? It does not simply describe problems, it demonstrates concrete methods for improving legislation and proposes a research agenda. It treats drafting not only as a technical exercise, but as a part of democratic practice, because a law that cannot be understood cannot be trusted, and a law that cannot be trusted cannot sustain the rule of law and democracy. We designed the book not only to analyze legislative language, but to support those working to improve it, from scholars and drafters to translators, linguists, and students entering the field. So, thank you again, Cristina, Giuseppe, and Diritti Comparati for the invitation, and thank you all for watching. I look forward to continuing the conversation and to seeing how this agenda develops in the years ahead.